Good evening and calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the West Hartford Public Schools Regular Board of Education meeting. It is Tuesday, September the 5th, 2023. Charlotte, may you please call the roll?
Mr. Goldman?
Here.
Dr. Harris?
Here.
Dr. Kamoff?
Here.
Ms. Nazarella?
Present.
Dr. Steinberg?
Here.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson?
Here.
Student Representative Liam Wright?
Here.
And Student Representative Chris Ramal.
Here.
Thank you so much and welcome, student representatives. For today's Pledge of Allegiance, may you please lead us, Gail?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have a revision to the agenda order. However, before we proceed, there is a statement that I would like to make. This is our first Board of Education meeting of the 2023-2024 academic school year, and we're so glad that we are all here before you. However, I do want to share a thought. The board has been made aware of an allegation of a racial slur uttered in the presence of students. We would like the community to know that the Board of Education and the district administration take these matters seriously and remain committed to our vision to value and honor all of our community. The district's administration is investigating thoroughly. I want to express that although we have done extensive training to create school environments that are inclusive and equity-driven, we know that our work is never done. The defining factor for our district and our community lies within how we respond, how we come together to ensure our students feel safe, valued, and seen for who they are. At this time, we will proceed with the agenda, which calls for public communications. This is an opportunity we're able to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, your suggestions. Each person has 3 minutes to respond, and we ask that when you come to the podium, please share your name and your town of residence. Please be mindful that as you speak, we are attentively listening. However, it is board policy that we do not respond to comments as they are being made. We also have, as part of our policy, we prioritize hearing first those that are speaking on agenda items. And to remind us for tonight's meeting, the agenda entails nomination, appointment, and swearing in of a new board member, and the 2023-2024 opening of schools update. So we do have a list here, and I'll begin by naming those who've signed up speaking on agenda items, starting with Ellen Nichols. Please come to the podium. And as you are speaking, please be aware of Charlotte, who will hold up a yellow card when you have 1 minute remaining in your time. And when your time is expired, you'll see a red card, and we ask that you please respectfully pause and take your seat.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ellen Nichols. I live in West Hartford, and I'm here tonight to speak on the curriculum, which was part of the packet. So I'm hoping I'm in the right spot. Actually, this is a curriculum loose end. And I'm going to start by reading something from a text. This is Ruthie. She's a transgender girl. This means when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy, until she grew a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she's actually a girl. This is Ruthie's friend Alex. Alex is both a boy and a girl. This is Alex's friend JJ. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl, end quote. These statements are from a book in our 5th grade curriculum called It Feels Good to Be Yourself by Teresa Tom. The book does not say Ruthie feels like a girl or dresses like a girl or wishes she was a girl. It says, quote, she's actually a girl, end quote. This book has abandoned truth, yet it remains in our curriculum 2 years after the gender lessons were introduced in September 2021. In November of that year, parents and community members found out about the new gender curriculum when it made national press. Over the next month, many parents came here and asked for curriculum to be modified, or the books to be removed or moved to a different grade level. They asked to be able to opt out of lessons. They suggested that a boy who wears a dress to school should be respected and shown kindness, and that's a good lesson. But it does not have to include teaching that a boy can be a girl. Parents spoke, but nothing changed. In March 2022, Gail Harris proposed a symposium on gender curriculum to inform parents. It was voted down by this board. Parents kept coming to the podium, and they met individually with Mr. Vicinus and Ms. Haskins. Nothing changed. In May 2022, Mr. Vicinus announced parent meetings at each elementary school. Meetings were held in December and January of last year. Nothing changed. In May 2023, Paul announced a parent workshop to review the books, which was held this past June, but nothing's changed. Lest the parents and community be made to look like fools, I'm asking for three things of the board tonight to bring this project to conclusion. First, that the board request the administration to wrap up this book review immediately. Second, that the administration announce any book changes at the next board meeting, and that they be implemented by October 1st. Finally, that a curriculum committee of the Board of Ed be put on the agenda for discussion before Thanksgiving. The February 22nd meetings of this board minutes show that this request was formally made by Gail Harris on that date. It has yet to make the agenda. A curriculum committee would go a long way to avoiding this problem in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on an agenda item? There is no one who has signed up here. However, I do want to extend the invitation to those in the audience. I'll ask again, anyone here to speak on an agenda item? Seeing none, we now will go to those speaking on general comments, beginning with Addie.
Addie Lorden, 561 Park Road. On July 6th, I attended a meeting at Charter Oak with fellow parents and Mr. Vicinus. Topic brought up was that there was insufficient after-school and before-school options. I had mentioned that the town had taken over St. Bridget's, and was it even possible for the town and WHPS to come together and find a solution for this matter, seeing as how we are touting ourselves as a destination for education. Ms. Kelly-Jones stated that the Early Childhood Commission would require a new build. Well, Webster Hill received over $500,000 in a grant from Early Childhood, which is your employer, Chairperson Farquharson. And the wording of that grant was preschools for a new build. No new build occurred. We parents were told that it was given to Webb Hill as we had extra rooms. So if we can bend the requirements of grants for Webster Hill, perhaps we can look into bending other requirements of grants to provide adequate before and after care for students so they can continue their education in West Hartford. Last spring, Elizabeth Hewitt, the Director of Finance for Town and WHPS, stated that we receive 10 cents on every meal sold in the schools, totaling $85,000. We also have a bookstore in West Hartford, and that is funding for the schools. However, we have no accounting for it. Where does this money go? Why can it not go to programs to aid our parents? And today, one of the hottest days of the year, our children came out they were coming out of sweatshops. They were absolutely exhausted and absolutely at risk of heat exhaustion and other ailments from the heat. 3 years ago, actually February of 2021, you voted to bring in AC at 8.1 million with an added 2.5 million, and to start with Duffy and Webster Hill, and it was to occur over 2 summers. This was February 2021. This is September of 2023. There's been 3 summers and not any AC unit has gone into either school. Where is that almost $11 million? When will our children learn in a comfortable and healthy environment in the elementary schools? It is shameful.
Excuse me, your time is
expired. And you are out of order.
Thank you. Next, we have on the list Anita.
Hello, Anita at West Hartford. So I'm just here very quickly regarding finances. First of all, in your report that you see for Conard, it says tennis court replacement completed. I just want to alert you that they did not put in new bleachers, although it was asked for. And there's paperwork to confirm what I just stated. And there are pictures to confirm that the bleachers were not changed. Second, and most importantly, as you know, we had requested for receipts and paperwork showing flow of funds, that what is stated in the budget, what is stated in end of year report, that it's actually flowing to, that there could be confirmation. It has gone to the Freedom of Information Commission, and the meeting was supposed to be held at July 31st, which I think is what I had reported to you. On July 24th, I received a request that they cannot make it. Director of Finance cannot make it. Can we postpone it? Well, obviously, I have no complaints about that. But between January 23rd and July 24th, no records were provided. On July, so that was approved by the Freedom of Information Act, the commission, and so that is set for September 19th, which in the evening will be a Board of Ed meeting, so I will come and report to you, because I feel that the public needs to know where our money's going. On July 31st, I received my first packet of, I would say, computer generated. Some of them have receipts. We have asked for contracts, and we have asked for bank statements to show the flow of funds. We have not received that. And the only receipts we have received is for transportation. We have not received the contract. And according to information out there, that there should be a contract. So I don't understand why I'm not receiving this, but people need to be aware. And I would do an injustice to the full tuition that my parents paid for when it comes to using the knowledge gained to excellence in education. With that, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kim Hughes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Kim Hughes, West Hartford. I'm here to talk about an awesome opportunity, and it's new, so I thought the best way to deliver this message would be in person at this meeting tonight. This is a climate, community, and conversation sponsored by the Connecticut League of Conservation Voters, but it's also in partnership with the West Hartford Sustainable West Hartford Commission, on which I serve. So I really invite everyone. I really hope you all can make time to attend. The details are on this paper, and hopefully you'll be seeing it in many other places. I'm going to leave this over there so people can take pictures, even take a copy if you would like. So I'm just going to follow that up with just a reminder that my children's school, Charter Oak International Academy, won a farm to school grant last spring. It will be implemented this year, and it's so exciting. I'm going to read from you some notes that were from a newsletter printed just in the last couple of days, and I hope it stirs you like it does me. Farm to school education and climate connection. Learning about our food system at every level is a great way for even very young students to process all they hear about climate change, from the living soil food web to planting needs, pollination and harvesting, and from the environmental injustice of food deserts to discussions with local farmers and producers and the carbon footprint of eating strawberries in the winter. Is your mind just whirling with questions and ideas and inquiry? Farm to school education organically taps into Indigenous wisdom and traditions from around the world and elevates the importance of a deep and lasting connection to the land. Charter Oak students have been exploring themes around sustainability for a long time, empowering our children with knowledge of the more than human world and gratitude for Earth's gifts is really all they need, my opinion, and maybe all you need to take action against climate change. In past years, students have started plants from seeds, advocated for pollinator habitat, hosted vermiculture compost bins, participated in garden cleanup, and so much more. So my idea for you all is, do you want to take action on climate change in support of climate resiliency, but you're not sure where to start? Ask the children. And so this farm to school grant that's at Charter Oak is powerful. It's already had an impact. And I'm hoping that every one of our schools sees programs and education just like this. I hope you'll be seeing more of me here in this setting as well. I thought this is a great place to stay updated. I'm also an environmental educator and serve on an outdoor educators board here in our state. So I hope this is the first of many. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Next, we have Amy Fishman.
Hi, Amy Fishman, 62 Hall Street. As the mom of an autistic, special needs, mixed race, WHPS student, I'm scared for him. I've been a resident of this town for 44 years. I attended Wolcott, Sedgwick, and Conard. Matter of fact, I was the first sixth grade class at Sedgwick. I was really proud of that. My son started his education at the ELC at age 3. Sadly, I've seen a shift in what's important: keeping students safe, no matter what they look like or what their ability is, versus portraying a false narrative, an image, if you will, making it seem to the outside world that West Hartford is inclusive for all. In my own experience with my son, Sedgwick Middle School was not a safe place for him at all. It was the opposite for many reasons. On Friday, the third day of school, just this year, a math teacher at Sedgwick racially profiled a black student in front of his peers. This black student was his third day in a new school. The teacher not only said the N-word multiple times, but she justified herself to the students, saying, "I can say this, but you can't." In my opinion, this teacher needs to be fired. Our kids are supposed to be safe when they enter these hallways. As parents of students of color, it's reality that we talk to them about how to behave with the police so they don't get pulled over or hurt or killed for being a boy with brown skin. The peace of mind that they are safe with their teachers at school is gone. There are 3 extremely concerning issues at Sedgwick right now. The one I just said, the teacher racial profiling a black student in front of his peers on day 3. Number 2 would be making assumptions of non-white kids, i.e., last year my son was suspended for a week. He's autistic. He didn't do what they said he did. Number 3, there is an art teacher there at Sedgwick Middle School that targets non-white special education students. Any of us can look up on the internet that the Connecticut Education Advocate report from 6/22/22 stated that the suspension rate for Black and Hispanic students at Sedgwick was 35.4% for Black and 23.8% for Hispanics. The suspension rate for students that receive special education was 30.9% at Sedgwick. The rate of suspension for white students, 9.4%. Something needs to change, and it needs to change now.
Thank you. Next, we have Lizzie Brooks.
Hi, everyone. My name's Lizzie Brooks. I live in West Hartford. This is my daughter, Annabelle. I also have a second grader at Charter Oak. Annabelle is an alum. And this year, we learned that funding was cut to enrichment at Charter Oak. So this is a huge loss for the school. It means that students will no longer receive the weekly instruction and support of at least 2 wonderful teachers, Ms. Hadlock and Ms. Hardesty, who offered students in every classroom opportunities for building, creating, experimenting, coding, STEM challenges, and more. A lot of what drew us to the school. Beyond that, cutting the enrichment program really threatens the character of the school and undermines the IB program, which values hands-on and inquiry-based learning. This hurts students and also, I think, will create a challenge for the school to attract magnet families moving forward. So we just hope that this can be a agenda item at some point in the future that, to reconsider this decision. And Annabelle just wanted to speak about her experience.
Hi, my name is Annabelle Brooks, and I live in West Hartford. I'd like to add on to what my mom said about how important Miss Hadlock and the enrichment program is to Charter Oak. During the day, usually for the older kids, for math, it's worksheets and maybe some small projects, but what Miss Hadlock helped bring into the classroom was hands-on, let us have some fun and let us learn through STEM, and we were able to, like, we did coding, we used robots, we did competitions, and we helped each other learn. And Miss Hardesty and Miss Hadlock helped not only teach us, but teach the community as a whole. We did many building hands-on projects as a whole community, as a school. They really helped make Charter Oak what it is, and I was really proud to be from Charter Oak and go there, and Miss Hadlock was a big part of that, and Miss Hardesty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Next, we have Mark Greenstein. Please pardon if I've mispronounced the last name.
Either way's fine. Thank you. Technically right. So, hi again. I am Mark Greenstein from 20 North Quaker and Sedgwick earlier and King Philip Elementary before that. I am part of a proposal that's going to the legislature, because it is a statewide thing, that should help West Hartford greatly. It is a choice in schools proposal statewide. And I'm really here to get, ultimately, feedback from you. Mr. Davidoff will pass on what's there now, and parents here, because it should help West Hartford. It's especially probably meant more so for Hartford children and New Britain children, but it's especially good for West Hartford because, well, socially it's bringing potentially 10% more, maybe 500 a year, diverse, good kids from other towns that are ambitious. It allows some West Hartford kids to go to other towns if there are programs that are better, but most will stay here. Financially, it's very good because it does allow up to $20,000 per student to the West Hartford schools. And I remember speaking with Dr. Moore 4 years ago when he was lamenting, this was when the proposal was only $8,000. And he said, we would kill for $8,000. He didn't say kill, but he said, we only get about $4,000 reimbursement. Doubling that, now quintupling that, should be financially really good too. So I'm available, and I'd like to hear, because I want to help shepherd this through the legislature, if there are any real objections to having, yes, more movement among towns, total choice by parents for the schools that they want, and in improving, not really improving, just expanding the kind of neat things like farm to school that West Hartford offers to more kids. So thank you. I'm in back if anyone else wants to see me, and you'll get a proposal soon. So thanks.
Thank you. That's it who we have signed up here on the list. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? And I will also say and remind us all that we know with our new policy that the first meeting of the month is where we receive comments on any topic, whereas the second meeting that we have during the month, we speak, or rather we receive comments on just agenda items. So if there are any comments to be made in general, this is your opportunity to share. I'll ask again. All right, we do have public comment at the end of the meeting as well. We will pause on public communications and now move on to non-staff communications and reports. And this is where we are fortunate to hear from our student representatives. We have two new student representatives here with us today. We have Chris Rameau representing Conard High School and Liam Wright representing Hall High School. So once again, welcome to you both. We look forward to hearing from you at each meeting, and thank you so much for representing your schools. And let us begin with Liam, please.
All right. Hello. Before I begin, I would like to say I am honored to be the representative for Hall High School, and I'm very excited to be here. To start, Hall High School, again, school has just started. We are 4 days in. We had a very successful freshman orientation with our Link Crew program. There was quite a good turnout. Afterwards, there was also a club activities fair where the freshmen could learn about potential clubs and other activities that they could join throughout their school year. And there was also a breakfast for the freshmen, and it was quite successful in my opinion. On the sports side of things, football, soccer, women's volleyball, and women's field hockey have all begun scrimmaging other schools to practice for upcoming games. And the men's golf team has played, I believe, 3 matches so far, and they have been relatively successful. Over at the school, the tennis courts have been finished at Hall, and also there have been improvements among exterior staircases, and also just general things throughout the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Chris.
Yeah, I'd also like to say it's such an honor to serve on this committee. I've been watching some of the videos since I was in sophomore year, and it's just been a dream to serve on a town board and actually speak my voice to the town. And so at Conard, we also had a pretty big turnout at freshman orientation. It was last Tuesday, the day before the first day of school, and the class of 27, they were introduced to the entire building. A few clubs had the club fair as well, and our club fair had the largest turnout that it had in the past few years, because in the past few years there just wouldn't be people going to any of the booths at the fair, but this year there was quite a few students going to the booths. And so in terms of sports at Conard, same as Hall, there's been scrimmages going on, but today I think the boys golf team had the first actual match. And then throughout the rest of this week, a few of the other sports also have matches, with cross country also having a a season opening meet in Middletown at the end of the week. And then our tennis courts have also been fully repainted, but supposedly not the bleachers. And yeah, that should. Oh, also at Conard there was a fire alarm during crossing periods, and that was, I believe, due to an error to the system in the alarms. And yeah.
All right, we err on the side of caution. All right, Chris, thank you so much, and welcome again to the both of you. Continuing on with the agenda to unfinished business, which we do not have any of, and now we will move to new business, where we'll have a nomination, appointment, and swearing in of a new board member. We have a recommendation that the Board of Education appoint Ms. LaToya Fernandez as a member of the West Hartford Board of Education to fill the position vacated by Dr. Jason Chang through November 2023, and that Mr. Leon Davidoff swear in Ms. LaToya Fernandez as a new board member. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. So this is our opportunity. We have in a position now to have someone to help complete our board. We only have 6 members, and our board is not complete until we have 7. And so we do have someone that has been recommended to fill the seat, that being Ms. LaToya Fernandez. And before but a part of the discussion, I do want to share with all of us here just some thoughts, because we know whenever it comes to someone representing our board, there is a process of learning more about them and their thoughts and their views. And as part of this discussion, do want to share with you words from Ms. Fernandez that she has shared in regard to some questions and thoughts of statements that have been made. And this again is from Ms. Fernandez. It's unfortunate that there were some thoughts and feelings that I may be anti-Semitic or supporting any anti-Semitic sentiment. This was a letter co-authored by community members, survivors with first-hand experience, and Democratic district leaders. The intention of the letter was to align the fight for peace and justice across the world. After spending the summer marching for George Floyd and hosting community healing circles and conversations, it was apparent that violence and division are issues we continue to face as humanity. The letter highlights some specific events that took place and emphasizes the impact of those events on Israelis, Arabs, and Jewish people. Furthermore, calls for a ceasefire on all sides to prevent further discord on the most vulnerable populations, women and children who are often caught in the middle. While I was not an author of the letter, I was a district delegate representing the California State Assembly District and signed as a representation of my district at the request of our constituents to stand in solidarity with the other districts. The signatures on the letter include Board of Education trustees, county supervisors, city council members, and representation from the state delegation. As a restorative justice practitioner, I never want to cause harm, and if harm is caused, I want to make it right. I did go back and read the letter objectively with my fiancé, because if there had been something untrue, offensive, or discriminatory, I would want to know, and of course take accountability and make amends. He shared his perspective that he felt the letter was a call to protect human rights and didn't find it to be anti-Semitic. I am grateful to have his support along with my community and the diverse populations I've served. More importantly, I am excited and ready to continue to be an ally to all students and families in West Hartford. So again, wanted to share this with all here. And I think one piece also that's important to recognize with Ms. Fernandez, not only in terms of her passions and what she speaks and what she advocates for, but it also is what she lives in terms of who she embraces in her professional life and her personal life. And her personal life is expanding, and so that is up to her to disclose that information. But did want to share this with all of you, and certainly before us we have discussion with the motion being on the floor.
I'll go. I wrote my comments out before I heard the letter. I appreciate the letter. I think there's more to be said, but I appreciate the letter. My comments were, last Thursday there was an email from Lorna letting us know that LaToya Fernandez was going to be nominated to take Jason's board position and sent along a copy of LaToya's resume. At approximately the same time, I was sent from a member of the West Hartford community a link to a tape that LaToya had apparently made several years ago supporting the defund the police movement. While I strongly disagree with the sentiments that was expressed, I am willing to acknowledge that there are perspectives out there that are different than mine, and that the defund the police movement is more a town council issue than a school board issue. Sunday night, I was sent from another member of the West Hartford community a statement from what I assume was a group of Santa Clara, California residents asking that the Santa Clara County Democratic Central Committee condemn Israel for, and I quote, decades of systemic discrimination and violation of the human rights of Christian and Muslim Palestinians, end quotes. My understanding from the senator was that LaToya was listed as a co-signer at the bottom of the page, is the same LaToya we are voting on tonight. Just as with police defunding, I have an extremely different perspective. I know it's not a school-related issue and it would not be appropriate to debate the Middle East at the school board meeting vote, but it bothers me that I have no way to confirm her opinions, although I did hear some, so I appreciate that. And there's no context for the resolution. Was there maybe another one condemning other countries with real human rights issues, such as Cuba, Venezuela, or North Korea? Our process doesn't really allow that because this is unusual. As I said, in terms of the funding, there are individuals with different viewpoints, I get it, but I'll add, given the multiple differences of what are critical issues for me, that does not mean that I should vote for support of those positions. So I feel bad doing it, but I'm going to abstain. I don't want to establish a dangerous precedent, because I believe it's important that each party be allowed to nominate the candidates of their choice, which is why I'm abstaining as opposed to voting no. It happened to me 2 years ago when I replaced Mark, so I think it's important to abstain on the vote. I will add that one of the things that has surprised me since joining the school board and caused me difficulty in making this vote, is I like the interaction that happens between the members of the board, and wouldn't want to jeopardize that over my vote. But given the significance of the two issues, especially the Israeli statement, which I found sort of extreme, I cannot vote to support LaToya, so I will abstain. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Claire, Gail, pardon, yes.
Okay, so I don't have a statement as quite as organized as Ethan does. I guess what bothers me is that, you know, even after LaToya obviously we're aware of this statement regarding the situation in the Middle East, it seems as if we're still supporting, or LaToya is still feeling that this is not an anti-Semitic statement. I think it is an anti-Semitic statement. I don't know if you guys have been privy to be able to read it, but some of the statements in here are definitely anti-Semitic, in my opinion. When you talk about the Israel's government's flagrant and inhumane attacks on Palestinian religious institutions and press organizations, when you talk about the forced expulsion of Palestinian families from their homes in East Jerusalem, this is basic anti-Semitism, in my opinion, and none of it is really true either. I want to believe that maybe LaToya is that well versed in this issue, and maybe she didn't really understand exactly what she was signing and what was being said in this statement. But this is basically saying that the Hamas terror group that runs Gaza is basically in the right, and Israel is basically in the wrong. So that was one issue that I found very difficult to stomach, particularly in a district where 30% of our students are Jewish. And I don't speak for every Jewish person, but I would probably think that most Jewish people do support the state of Israel and do support its ability to, as a democratic state with a democratic elected government, as opposed to a terrorist organization running the Gaza Strip. So this is problematic for me. The other issues of defunding the police, which she's been very vocal about. She's out on YouTube talking about defunding the police, talking about removing resource officers from schools. I find that hard to stomach, given the current environment that we live in and given the current situation that we find ourselves in terms of crime within our town, in our state, in our country. Obviously, people can have different opinions about that, and I respect different opinions, but it is hard to understand those types of attitudes towards the police, as we've seen this year, police gunned down in neighboring communities. So I also feel, as Ethan does, I don't want to vote no. I don't want to set a precedent here. I know we want to try to work together, and generally we do. But I also have to abstain from the vote tonight. Thank you.
Other comments? All right.
I just want to speak to the issues that both Gail and Ethan have brought before us, because when I received that information, I felt the same exact way. I really struggled with this appointment, given that additional information. I still have strong feelings about that letter in particular and that policy, but I did take the time and I spoke directly to LaToya, and we had a very open and honest conversation because I wanted to know where she stood on these issues. I think it's hard to assume someone's kind of who they are and what they stand for based on one document, to be honest. And after having a conversation and sharing her concerns directly with her and some of the issues, particularly asking Israel to kind of give up the Gaza Strip, which we all know that that's never going to happen and should never happen, that these were troublesome things to me, just reading that policy. But I will say, after speaking with her and looking at her rationale and who she is as a person, that has, while I don't support that letter, and I don't really support anyone who signed that letter as a Jewish woman, I don't think that that's who she is as a person. I don't think that will, I just don't think it will influence her opinions on the board in any kind of anti-Semitic way. So I just wanted to give that feedback because I had the exact, same initial reaction when I read that letter.
Other thoughts, comments?
I'll just add, all we can do is go on the information we have.
Of course.
So, and I hope you're right.
We'll appreciate the thoughts that have been shared. Oh, Claire, yes.
In reviewing her history, her work with restorative justice, the work she's done to close the opportunity gap, the amount of statewide policy work, how much she's helped children, there's some assets that she brings to the table. I don't profess to have same political views of you or you or you. I can have my own political views about things, but I'm here to serve the students of West Hartford. I'm here to make educational decisions that I think serve the community. And I just feel that some of the background and the work that she's done is something that we don't have anybody else on the board that has the amount of work with struggling juveniles and some of the restorative justice work that we don't have that background in.
Other comments? Well, appreciate all that has been shared, and I think that it again demonstrates how we don't take steps like this lightly, and it's important for our thoughts and voice to be a part of that discussion. I do think that it is important to recognize there are many pieces that contribute to a person and who they stand for and what they represent. And some of us have had the fortune of being able to engage with LaToya beyond what has been seen in writing, and do feel with a conviction that she would be an asset to this board because of who she stands for, and that being for all students. Again, perfecting inclusion, that is something that she does not just do for work, but it is something that she models and practices, and has many who have spoken favorably of the work that she does. We know that as board members, our primary role is not only to appoint the superintendent, establish our budget, but also to issue policy that helps to govern our district. And it's important that in doing so, with governing our district through policy, that the policies represent who we are, who we stand for, and also encourage us to address areas of growth when there are some, because we know that that is something that is a continuous learning process. And so with all that has been said, I will ask once again if there are any comments before we proceed to a vote. Seeing none, I am going to ask for a roll call vote, please. And let us begin.
Okay. Mr. Goldman?
Abstain.
Dr. Harris?
Abstain.
Dr. Kamoff?
Yes.
Ms. Nezzarella?
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson?
Yes, the motion passes. We now have a new board member, Ms. LaToya Fernandez. And so at this time, we'll ask our town clerk, Mr. Davidoff, to come forward, and LaToya to please come forward as well, so you may be sworn in, and that's when it really becomes official. So LaToya.
If you could raise your right hand, please. Do you, LaToya Fernandez, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, and that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as a member of the West Hartford Board of Education to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. We'll mail this to you. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So, LaToya, we're going to ask for you to come over here, please, to join us once you get your belongings and put your nameplate here. We do have some other pieces we're going to attend to as LaToya makes her way. And what I am referring to is we know that Dr. Chang, in his role of being on the board, he served as secretary. And so with his departure, that left the seat for secretary open. So that is another piece that we need to attend to. But first, we'll have Ms. Fernandez to join us here. Welcome. Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, so let us move to the next piece. And so, we are first looking, are there any further nominations for the position of secretary? Not further, but an initial nomination for the position of secretary. Are there any nominations for the position of secretary?
Can I point of order?
Yes.
Is this a change in the agenda?
It is part of the agenda piece, with us having the nomination to fill Dr. Chang's seat. Because in his role he served as secretary, it presumes that we need to fill that position as well.
Okay.
Again, are there any nominations for the position of secretary?
I would like to nominate Gail for secretary.
Gail?
No, sorry, Gail. See, you called her. Sorry. Claire.
All right.
Sorry, Gail. It's because I was looking at you.
That's all right. Is there a second?
I second the nomination for Claire.
Thank you. We have a nomination for Claire, and it's been seconded. Do we have any other nominations? All right. Discussion. Okay. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Claire. We're going to have you to come here. We're going to have you two go right over there. And here's your nameplate. You're welcome. And applause for Claire. All right, we are full once again. Now let us continue to staff communications and reports. So this is a special day because, yes, it is not only the first day, or rather our first Board of Ed meeting this academic school year, but we have officially kicked off this academic school year with our superintendent. Yes, who did take his seat prior to the closing of last school year, but he's starting us off this year. So, Mr. Vicinus, once again, so glad to have you here with us, and passing the baton to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, and a very happy new year to one and all. Very excited about the school year. I'm very happy to welcome Liam, Chris, and now LaToya. Welcome to our Board of Education, and so proud to be here in this leadership role behind such an outstanding district. It has been a very, very busy summer. And there's a lot of praise to pass out, the amazing work of our Human Resources Department to ensure our staffing levels. A thank you to any number of teachers who volunteered their time this summer to serve on interview committees. A huge, huge shout out to our custodial staff and plant services for their tireless work to ready our schools. And our schools looked amazing on day one as we welcomed over 9,300 students into school on the first day. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I have a phenomenal team that wants to come forward and share all about that, but a couple of quick things. I just want to reiterate our mission, especially for our newest members to know that our mission here in West Hartford Public Schools is to prepare and inspire all students. And in my opening comments, at Convocation, in my comments at our new teacher orientation, I really wanted to take some time and talk with our staff about that commitment to all. That all really means all. And we have a focus on every child, every day in the district. It's a charge that I'm trying to put forward that we need to ensure that we are creating the conditions for learning for every child by creating a welcoming environment, an environment in which our students feel a genuine sense of belonging. And that we need to do so every day. We know that there are challenges that are out there. We're seeing chronic absenteeism on the rise across the state. we need to do our parts to ensure that every single day we're setting the conditions to help students to learn and grow. Equity has always been a focus here in the district, and it was a privilege to welcome Ken Williams. You'll hear a little bit more about him, but he talked about equity through the lens of academics and the importance of ensuring essentially that those essential skills that can be identified at every unit, at every grade level, be mastered by every child, and allowing the art and the skill of teachers, giving them permission to make sure that not a single child misses out on that opportunity. So I wanted to stress that. That was really a part of the message that we began the year with, and I hope that it rings as a consistent message throughout. Some fast updates. I was very excited to see over the course of the summer Hall High School, no surprise, went through its accreditation with the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, otherwise known as NEASC, and they were awarded continued accreditation with numerous commendations. Very excited to see that report. Conard High School will receive its accreditation visit early this December. I'll be very excited to introduce to you newest member of our executive team, Ms. Teresa Rangel, who joins us from both service for the town of Naugatuck and Naugatuck Public Schools. She is just an instant trusted member of the team, and when she has the opportunity to present here tonight, I am certain that you will feel the same way. A couple of fast celebrations that I wanted to share. The first will reference Conard and Hall, but this is a celebration of our entire pre-K-12 programming. It's our annual placement within the state and national rankings on the U.S. News and World Report. Conard placed number 10, Hall placed number 11, with both schools moving up from the previous years. That places them in the top 5% of schools here in the state, and that places them in the top 3% of schools nationally. It is an absolute credit to our teachers, to our amazing leadership, and to the dedication of so many pre-K through 12, those awards, and I am so proud to see that we continue to be recognized in that way. A great shout out to a teacher from King Philip in our social studies department and a former Board of Education member, Sean Passon. He is one of only 5 teachers in the state of Connecticut to be selected for the Mohican Tribe Challenge Grant, which is a program designed to support the teaching of Native American history, traditions, and cultures. He was recognized at an event earlier this July. And Charter Oak International Academy was also recognized recently. They were the recipient of the Center for Bridging Cultures Cross-Cultural Chinese Language Education Grant in the amount of $10,000. This grant has been approved to support a variety of classroom and library resources, after-school programs, field trip expenses, and family and community engagement activities. We're very proud for Charter Oak, and it will simply add to the magnet theme that brings families to Charter Oak as well as supports our neighborhood children. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I did not mention a little bit about the weather. It is fairly warm. The town of West Hartford has issued a heat advisory from 9:45 this morning until 8 p.m. on September the 7th. So all principals, I would want our public to know, all principals have been reminded to kindly share their individual building cooling plans with families and caregivers. In addition, the custodians are coming in and they're running the HVAC systems beginning at 5 a.m. in order to cool the buildings and or to ventilate with cooler morning air, as we are expecting the overnight lows to be in the low 60s. We are monitoring the situation closely. As you're aware, tomorrow is a Wednesday. We have a scheduled, regular early Wednesday release that will help support, some relief from the afternoon heat. And we'll continue to monitor, and we're in collaboration with our surrounding districts to see what things look like for Thursday. And if there should be any change, we will communicate that with families no later than Wednesday evening. So that is a very abbreviated report, but the real meat and potatoes will come from the team, who I am very proud to bring before you in just a moment, pending any of your questions.
Thank you so much. Teammates, any questions for Mr. Vicinus, our superintendent, regarding what he has shared? Seeing none, we'll continue on. All right, well, the team is here. Okay. Mr. Vicinus, would you like to introduce, or how would you like to proceed?
Yes, I'm very excited. From my left, Ms. Liz Hewitt, our Director of Budget and Finance, Mr. Julio Duarte, our Executive Director of Human Resources, Dr. Andy Morrow, Assistant Superintendent for Administration, Ms. Ann McKernan, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Teresa Rangel, making her debut as our Executive Director of Equity Advancement, and my good friend Melissa Caballero, our Executive Director of Pupil Services. Each of them will have a part, and they'll be available for your questions.
All right, so welcome everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome, LaToya. There's a great Ray Bradbury short story, All Summer in a Day, which Bob Palmer and I kind of laugh about because that's kind of how our construction process feels, in that you know that we only have about an 8-week, optimistically an 8-week window to do a full year's worth of construction and maintenance on our buildings. And so I wanted to run down just some of the capital improvement projects, some of the work that's been done, and you can see the full report there as well. But our usual painting and flooring was done at most of our schools. The tennis court replacement have been completed at Conard and Hall and will include bleacher replacements for that. Brayburn's parking lot was repaved and has a new traffic pattern that we're working with West Hartford Police on as well to make sure that that becomes apparent and that parents become familiar with that as well. But we feel that that's a great improvement from safety standpoint. Duffy's entrance, if you remember, one of the things we've been working on for about a decade now is hardening our entrances to schools, making sure that we're doing everything we can to upgrade those security. Duffy is one of our last elementary schools to receive that change, and so Duffy will have, Duffy's had some entrance security upgrades done to their office this summer. We finished the hall auditorium seating refurbishment, which was a multi-year project that included refurbishing all of the seats in the auditorium. At KP, if you get a chance to be out there, you'll see the biggest change footprint-wise is the 5 modular classrooms have been removed. You know that we do an assessment of the needs in our modular classrooms every year, an assessment also of the safety of them, and they were past, well past their shelf life, and we no longer had a need to maintain them, and with the additional cost we were going to incur for maintaining them, we decided to remove them instead. Also, the rear driveway and parking lot of KP has been repaved to add additional parking spots for staff and for visitors. At Norfeld, the gym floor has been replaced. Sedgwick's had its roof replacement completed, and our second phase of the restroom renovations. If you remember, we did half last summer. We did the remaining half this summer. They're anticipated to be completed at the end of September for those additional half. Webster Hill saw some additional paving in the playground area for safety and convenience. And at Wolcott, in addition to painting of the classrooms and a restroom, we've also done design completion for the Wolcott office redo. As you remember in your CIP, you allocated a certain amount of money, or the town allocated certain fundings to redesign and build out the office at Wolcott to create a secure entrance. That project is proceeding, and we do have design completion from the architects, and we'll be going to that next phase so that we can go ahead and start that project for this upcoming summer. For IT, we've secured over $400,000 in E-rate grants to fund the replacement of wireless access points throughout the district. This improves connectivity, and it also will enhance some of the speed of the work that we're doing. We've migrated the mobile device management platform to a new system, which resulted in a 50% reduction in licensing costs. It also has the new system is frankly easier for us to push out different apps onto the many mobile devices that we use throughout the school. And although it's something that people won't really see, we've upgraded the district's internet speed from 2 gigabytes to 10 gigabytes to meet future bandwidth requirements that we're seeing across the town. We've also, parents will notice, introduced electric forms for all of the start of school data collection and information updates, which makes the system just a little more seamless, and it makes it easier instead of parents having to print out and sign and return the endless forms at the beginning of the year. For transportation, we're expecting to transport almost 5,200 students on 92 buses every day with 213 individual bus runs. As you know, because I shared, we already have had our first person hit one of our buses, and so we just continue to reiterate that people just need to get used to seeing buses on the road again, take extra time, and be extra careful around them. One of the things I do want to highlight under transportation is there's a new system that we're going to be bringing online this fall called First View. And what it is, it's a GPS system that parents can integrate with an app. It's a free system that will be available in the fall that our bus companies are making available, where parents can then track where the bus is in the morning and the afternoon. So it takes some of their guesswork out of when do I need to be at the bus stop to pick up my child, or when will they be at my front door. So hopefully that provides a little more information for parents there. Do you want to continue going through everybody, or do you want to ask questions now? What do you want to do?
We'll pause for questions.
Sure.
Thank you. Questions from what we've heard? Yes, Renee.
For the facilities projects, were there any projects that were budgeted and planned for that didn't get completed?
Yeah, and we usually go over that when we talk about the CIP piece, but we've had a couple that when we go out to bid, either the bids come in too high or no one bids on them. And again, we're still dealing with a pretty tight labor market when it comes for these projects, and so we have had a couple, nothing critical, but just a couple that we'll have to push to the next summer and either rebid them or combine them into different ways to hopefully attract a little more competition.
Yes, Claire.
In light of the heat, and also having been a second floor teacher at Duffy.
There's air conditioning now there, Claire. I mean.
Yeah, so I'm just, will there be an update in the capital improvement plan of some of the AC changes or additions? I know it takes a while, but what right now would you say is the percentage of schools with at least 50% AC?
No more than there were before. I mean, there haven't been, the work that was done for the CIP is starting with Duffy and with Webster Hill. The engineering is complete for those. They're set to go out to bid and such, but the way that the market has increased and such, what originally was going to be a $4 million project, if you remember from the CIP, is now going to be closer to an $8 million project at Duffy. And so the project will be bid, and our goal is to go ahead and start that in the spring. We think there's portions of it that we can actually start before school's out at Duffy, and to get a head start on some of that. But right now we have all of our elementary schools have portions that are air conditioned, but the only ones that are fully air conditioned, as you know, are Charter Oak and Smith.
Other questions or comments? Yes, Gail.
Yeah, I had a question about the transportation. Is there any type of, actually the technology that you seem to have where the parents can now follow the bus, it seems awesome. But is there any type of technology where you ensure that the child is dropped off at the right stop? Because there was a case this week of a child being, not in this district, but being dropped off at the wrong stop and the bus driver wasn't aware of that.
There's really not, as far as like a barcoding of kids or anything like that for that. But what we do is we make sure that the biggest thing for that is consistency amongst the drivers. And we've been very lucky working with our partners at First Student in that they have developed a very consistent driver base. And so any of those times that we don't have that regular driver who knows the kids, who's a part of that community and a consistency there. Anytime we have someone who's a substitute or whatever, they have a very specific list of students for each stop, and we really make sure they go out of their way to follow that, even if it means sometimes of having another person on that bus just to double check that as well. Because we never want that to happen, obviously.
Anyone else? Yes, Ethan.
Yeah, I like the GPS as well, but my question was, and I know that the assumption is it's all capital and it's part of the CIP plan, but one of the items you said removal of the 5 modular classrooms. Is that an expense or is that capital, and will that?
It was a capital expense.
Oh, so it's an annual capital expense?
No, it was a one-time capital expense of $225,000, yeah.
To remove it or to?
To tear down, to remove.
Okay, but we weren't paying rent or anything?
No, we weren't paying rent. However, I should say we were paying maintenance. On modular classrooms in schools are an interesting thing in that they have a shelf life. They're designed for a certain period of time. The ones that we tore down at KP were probably 10 years past their shelf life, and we had been doing the maintenance and the upkeep on those. There comes a point, however, where it just becomes too much, and we run into, is it worth continuing the maintenance that we have to put in on these every year to keep them as learning spaces versus can we just spend that one-time fee, tear them down, and then know that we'll be recouping that over the next couple of
No, I've
years.
seen the cost benefit on the private side. So my question, I guess, was more, is that going to be some savings, although minimal, for the budget?
There should be
There should be,
some
yeah.
utility savings.
Yeah, there'll be utility savings, there'll be certainly work and maintenance savings over the years, and that we've had to, in some modulars, we've had to incur significant costs of re-roofing, of restructural work. We wound up tearing down the 4 that we had at Wolcott simply because the cost was going to be too much to bring them back up to what we felt was a safe code and what the engineering department felt would be a safe code.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Do want to say thank you so much. Appreciate your timely updates of how things are happening transportation-wise. And although unfortunately there was that bus accident, so thankful no one was injured. So thankful for that. All right, moving on to, Ms. McKernan.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be among you tonight. Welcome to our newest members, our 2 students, and to Ms. Fernandez. I've updates from the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment for you. First, I'll start with our efforts at our district and school strategic planning that we have been working on. We've started as early as last April to work with our principals and our department supervisors to ensure that their individual school and department plans align with the board's goals and with the district's key areas of focus. So all of our schools have reviewed these and looked at their individual schools to say, how do I align to achieving your goals that you've set out here? And clearly one of our most important goals is to create these optimal learning environments that promote achievement and well-being. And so we worked with our team starting in last April and then again in August. They drafted plans last April. They looked at data that came in through the summer in the form of state testing and the end of the year reports on attendance, other student outcomes, and then they have finalized their strategic plans, and we will be reviewing them in the coming months to monitor and ensure that we are moving towards these goals. So it's been a good process, and I feel as though the team is working in unison, which is really important, to be coherent in our approach and to have us all really pulling in the right direction, the same direction, to achieve these lofty goals that we've set out. So that work has been underway and going very well. This summer, in terms of our summer programming, we served over 1,100 students in 6 programs. We have our Summer Connections program, which serves our elementary school students townwide, rising 1st through 6th grade at Charter Oak and Smith schools. And the students have, that's a 4-week program that students attend, and they work on their literacy, numeracy, and social emotional skills. A very good program. Over 217 children attended this year. And just down the road at Smith School, we had over 200 students attend our ESOL Summer School, where these students are really working on their oral language proficiency as well as reading and writing skills, another 4-week program. Down in the Hillcrest Area Neighborhood Outreach Center, our Hannock Center, we serve 17 students, and they are also given lunch. They give small group math instruction, literacy instruction, and they had some nice visitors this summer. We had a very successful middle school program again for the 3rd year. We served 80 children in our middle school program, and they'll come in and they have an advisory block. They have a block for literacy. One of the great outcomes there is that all the students finish their summer reading requirements in the program, which is nice for maybe a struggling reader who has a novel or other readings, short stories to finish. They finish in summer school there. They have a math block and they have an explorations block where they're able to choose 2 of 4 different activities to do. Our very well-known high school summer school program serves 600 students this summer, and we have students who attend for credit recovery or remediation, and then we have another group of students who are also attending just to advance or accelerate their process, or maybe to take an elective in the summer so they can take another course during the school year. And our summer jazz jam program, we had 90 students with about 25 out of the district who attended. These are really dedicated musicians, often very talented, very, very highly interested, and they work together. They end up forming, I think, 2 bands and 7 small ensembles. They have visitors who are quite talented musicians come, and they perform certain concerts by the end of the year. So it was a very active summer with all the programs and serving over 1,100 children this summer, which I think that's a good percentage of the kids that we serve overall. We also this summer had our transition programs. The high school has their Link Crew program where the upperclassmen, I think Liam, you spoke of Link Crew today. And Chris, I'm sure you're aware of Link Crew at Conard. These upperclassmen serve as kind of like mentors and guides for our incoming 9th graders. And they are trained in the types of activities that they'll be doing with the kids so that they feel comfortable. It's not far removed when you were a 9th grader, so they understand what it's like to enter a school of 1,400 children and not completely sure of everything, everywhere to go or who to ask. The middle school also has a similar program where the 8th graders serve as web leaders, and they work on an orientation. They get training, and then they basically are the hosts for the middle school, the 6th grade orientation program. Our teachers were busy this summer writing curriculum, and there are many, many projects that happened. I'll just highlight just a few. In secondary social studies, there's going to be a new course called Human Behavior in the Digital Age, which sounds fascinating. And I will bring this up again, but their teachers are writing a course about how machine learning and AI and the digital age is really changing how we behave. And I think we see that every day, in our attachment to our devices and the information we get and how we respond to them. The secondary math team worked very hard on 2 main projects. One was to ensure that we have computer science concepts in our algebra classes, so it's integrated. And also we looked at the new AP pre-calculus course, and we integrated many of the AP pre-calculus course concepts looked at our own, because we don't offer that course right now, and looked at how our course lines up with that one. But there were projects in many, many different areas. Our People Services Department wrote a new course, which is designed to enhance communication skills for students who really struggle with that. It's called Pragmatics. It will be helpful to students who have communication issues and also help them with nonverbal communication. So many, many projects going on there. And more teachers were active in professional learning this summer. We had a large contingent of teachers attend AP training in all different types of courses. And you go to AP training either because you're going to teach the class for the first time and you should go through the training, or your course has had some significant changes. And so you go to learn about those changes. We also have our curriculum specialist for computer science, Jackie Coricelli, who is active all summer in learning all about computer science. She is really a really valuable member, super valuable member of our team because of her expertise in computer science. She served on the AP Computer Science Principles Redesign at the national level. She worked with our social studies team to really understand, well, what is machine learning and what should you have in this course, as well as AI. And she's really well positioned to be able to teach teachers about what these concepts are and help them integrate them into their courses. And our teachers also, we had the first year of our school-based diversionary initiative last year at the middle school. You may have remembered that presentation, and this is an effort to reduce exclusionary discipline. The middle schools had a really successful year last year. They actually all made their benchmarks, which was a nice outcome. But they worked this summer to look at the lessons they've learned last year, and this program comes with a certain amount of funds that they have at their discretion to design the program they want. So they were able to use some funds and say what could help. So some of them met together and said, if we had a room that may have these kind of resources in it, it would help a child who's dysregulated at the moment and maybe help them to come up with strategies so that they would not continue to go down or make decisions that would lead to possibly exclusionary discipline. So it's been an active summer from our teachers in professional development and our teachers and students in summer school, and in our leaders with creating their plans for the year. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Teammates, questions, comments? Yes, Claire.
So in looking at all these summer programs and adding the ESY, it was almost like 1,500 students. That's like 16% of our students had a summer experience, which is amazing. I had no idea that many kids went. I know there was talk of increasing the middle school last year. I think it was you wanted to do something to increase. I wondered if that increased. Also with Hannock at 17 students, and then the summer connection for the same grades, 217 at Charter Oak, which isn't too far from Hannock. Can you talk a little bit about the ease of transportation and why a child might choose Hannock instead of Charter Oak, and how the selection was made? Also the middle school kids, the 80, how that selection was made.
Yes, I mean, I think I can give some insight on that, although I haven't talked to the children or the families directly, but I know that there are some students who use Hannock throughout the school year, and they feel very comfortable going to Hannock, so it's a very good option. It's a walking option for many kids. It's in the neighborhood. They go there after school for tutoring, and if they feel very connected, they might choose that option. That doesn't preclude them from choosing the option over at Summer Connections, but and speaking with the director there, I feel like the close connection and the familiarity with the program is one of the reasons why they would choose that.
And for the middle school, that 80, was that an increase, and how are those kids selected?
So the middle school was a slight increase from the previous year. This is our third year, and this is an ESSER-funded program. So as ESSER goes away, we'll have to take a look at that. But the first year, I believe we had over 100, and then there was a little bit of a lower number last year, so we got it back up to 80, and those were 80 consistent students. I think we had closer to 85 or 90 students who at least had some experience there. And so it was a slight increase, and I met with the director after the program was over. I was very impressed with his goals, his organization, his connection to students, and also the connection he expected the teachers to have with the students. And I really liked a lot of the outcomes there, because I know kids feel a certain amount of accomplishment to know they're going to go in on day one and their summer reading's done. They already won the first day, right? And then they also had they not only had some remediation, they had some previewing of math concepts, which also is nice. So they come to math class in the fall, they may right away start to see concepts they just finished. So they try to do that to reduce some of the summer learning loss, as we call it. So I think it's been a successful program. And I think you're absolutely right to look at it in terms of how, I actually added all the numbers up because I kept writing numbers down in different places. I'm like, that's a lot of kids. I mean, that's a lot of kids. And when you add ESY, which Melissa may speak about, it's even higher. It is a high number of high percentage of students.
Other questions or comments? Ethan.
So this may be coming up in future months. Is it possible to get a listing of the courses that in the high school, both the mandated and particularly the electives, just to be interested? I was interested, trying to figure out what kids can take.
In the regular school year, or you're talking about in the
Regular
summer?
school year.
Yeah, they're posted online, and I can get you that link. So the high school program of studies is posted
That'd
online.
be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Voila, I'm officially here.
Yes, you must say again, welcome once again.
Thank you very much. I have to say that I'll start off my report by saying that I'm thrilled to be here. I was absolutely drawn and inspired by the work that West Hartford has always done in living your mission to equity out loud, and very determinately so. So I'm blessed to be able to follow after the estimable Dr. Haskins, who was, a colleague of mine for some time, and of course, just really thrilled to be here. And looking forward to continuing to create spaces where students, and staff feel like they belong, and have a place, and can be heard. So I'll start my report with professional learning that took place this summer, actually under the guidance of Jocelyn Tamburello-Noble and Kim Ambrose, who led this work, because so important to the work that we do in schools is creating spaces of belonging and making sure that students feel that school is a safe place. And in doing so, building that sense of community, we sometimes start to struggle with what happens when things aren't going so well, right? So we do all this work, and restorative practices, the beauty of restorative practices is it starts with, creating that culture and climate and sense of community, and putting in those pieces. So you have your circles, and you have, your conversations, and you build together, and you learn each other. And then if something goes wrong, you have a place to restore to, right? You have a sense of belonging where kids actually want to go back to belonging to that space. And so when you need to intervene and when something kind of disrupts that space, you have a process that you go through that is well run and well understood by all participants about how you come together to build, right, to rebuild that sense of community. And so that work was actually done. The administration had work with that last year, and they had their training, and then this team got together of 18 or so staff members that had a nice selection of people from both elementary, middle school, high school, central office team members, to really put together a kind of a learning progression so that as this year rolls out, schools can start to do that work in-house. So the administration got training, and now the schools are starting to really dip their toes into this work. And again, I think a really important part of that messaging is that you don't just do restorative practices as just restoring. You have to create the space that you want students to be in, and that that work happens not just with students and staff, but with families, and making sure that everybody, is really embracing the community that we want to make. And so that work was done. I'm so super excited because I get to walk in. I'm like, yes, the work has already started. I don't have to come in and lift anything alone, which I have to tell you is a beautiful thing. They developed a draft of and rationale for doing the work, a definition, a shared definition, and they assembled a set of materials that the school-based leaders will be able to use. Also, and part of my report is convocation, which, Paul, unfortunately, he like stole my thunder. I'm like, why are you talking about Ken? That's my part. But it was just a magical thing to be there and to listen to him and to hear his voice talking about really holding, it's always been something that I feel like as a leader I've struggled to get people to understand, is that when you really care about equity for kids and you really want kids to succeed, there's a bar, and you're never lowering that bar because a child is struggling. You are building them steps, right? You're finding other things for them to step on to get there, but you're not taking that bar and lowering it, right? You hold high the expectations that you have for students, and then you figure out a way, and it's not necessarily always easy or neat, but it's our obligation, it's our mandate as educators to find a way to get all students to where we need them to go. And so he was phenomenal at delivering that message and delivering that message to what I call the first line, which are educators who are in front of our students each and every day, and really hold that, that trust with the public, right? That we're going to do that for each and every student. Every day. And so it was just a wonderful opportunity to be there and to listen to him and to know that, he is happy and willing to partner with us as we move forward in our work. Like I said, just really working with the practitioners who are doing that work every day. So it was great to have them at convocation because everyone's there. Everyone heard the message, leaders, teachers, every person who's in the district was there. So it was really great to hear and reassured me that I am absolutely in the right place. So thank you. And again, couldn't be happier to be here. Any questions? I'm happy to entertain. And this is day 2 for me.
Right.
Official, yeah.
Doing well. Teammates, any questions? Yes, Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Hi, thanks for that presentation. I was looking at this restorative practices, and it's not something I'm really that familiar with, so I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit as to even almost, give an example as to how that actually plays out in a real type of situation.
Real situation. So, I think what most people typically think about when they think about restorative practices, they think about, again, usually people go back to the connotation when something is going wrong. So I'll actually use that as an example. So let's say you're in a classroom and you have set norms and expectations for your classroom and how things go, and then a student does something that is like a behavior that really is out of keeping, right, with how we say we want to feel, right, in our room. Like in our classroom, we want to feel safe, we want to feel, all these different things. And so a student does something that kind of takes us out of that feeling, right? So, I don't know, somebody, they're outside for recess. I'm an elementary person by trade, so like recess time is usually, everything goes down at recess or lunch, right? So somebody does something at recess that's really harmful, and then the kids all come in, they're all really upset because this commotion happened at recess. So the way that would work is you circle all the kids up, and you put out, it's basically allowing the community to manage something that's happened, and you allow students to be able to talk about how what happened, how it made them feel, the biggest piece of it is also having the person who's done something that has taken away from the community feel, allowing them to own that, and then allowing them to restore that. Like what would bring us back to that place of equilibrium where we all feel still connected, right? And so allowing students to work through that process, it can be, I won't lie, especially as you start off doing this work, it can be like, it's timely, right? Because you can be efficient with things. It's really hard to be efficient with people, right? We're dealing with emotions, we're dealing with, people having to kind of come to terms. There's different components to it. Like I said, it's so in-depth, but there's different components to it. So there's norms that are there, like if you're in the circle and you're going around and everybody's talking, and let's say that I'm really having a hard time and I'm not ready to speak. That's part of the norms that I can choose, right, to not at that moment participate and take part in it. But the more you do that, and the more it becomes part of how you do business in your classroom, the more you see kids willingly coming to the space and willing to do that. Kids will actually start saying, hey, Mrs. Rangel, I think we need to have a circle. I think, X, Y, and Z happened. I think we really need to talk about it. And it's like a, family gathering where you sit down together and you work through the problems and you find ways for the person who has caused that harm to restore, right? And make amends for that and then be allowed back into, because it's always about the kids' choices. It's not really, you're not a bad child. You may have made a bad decision. It was a choice that, something that you did, right? But it allows it to be about that thing, right, that happened, that choice that you made, because you can always make a different choice and you can always come back to the table and do something better or different the next time. And so, it's a really good process for allowing students to be able to, in a lot of ways, manage their own community and be part of it and not just be the recipients of what the adults say, because it's a full community and you are a full member of that community. I guess it's like a summation of it. No problem.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you so much. And passing the baton.
Thank you.
Come over to you.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first board meeting. Welcome to our newest board members. So nice to see you all, and a big welcome to our newest team member, day 2 on the job, here for a board presentation and doing such a great job. Some exciting news out of the Department of Pupil Services. The day before school started, I received our annual performance review report. This is actually the newest data to come out since COVID. In my time as being a director, this is actually the first report I've received. And this report, while called the 2022 report, actually reflects back on the 2020-2021 school year. And you might remember that that was a time post-COVID where we were in the process of returning back to in-person learning, where we had the full hybrid remote school option. We had some students that were on a hybrid model and some students who were fully integrated back into the school system across the year. And so I'm very proud to report that even during that very difficult time, West Hartford met requirements as the highest rating that you can receive on an annual performance report. And this performance report looks at our compliance with IDEA standards, but most notably there are some really significant gains from the 2019-2020 school year, particularly with our graduation rates with students with disabilities. And we increased from 72.3% to 92% the following year. So that's a huge celebration. We're always monitoring our graduation rates. And through a very difficult time, it really kudos to the teams and the classroom teachers who did that work. As students were supported on various settings and depending on where they were accessing their learning that school year, to get them to graduation at such a high percentage rate was a real celebration. Other key indicator areas where we met requirements were time with non-disabled peers, chronic absenteeism, our state reporting, which looks at all of our compliance with evaluation timelines, reporting timelines, seclusion restraint reporting, and post-secondary transition, which is governed by some laws and policies there as well. You might remember me sharing some information about disproportionality, which is us reviewing, our eligibility rates and the demographics of students found eligible. We did, back in 2022, receive a 1-year warning for over-identification in the area of students who are Hispanic with intellectual disabilities. During that time period, we engaged in a self-assessment through the state and provided that report back to them, and as a result engaged in some new professional learning and have some safeguards around the process. We didn't receive any new updates around any disproportionality statistics, so I'll keep you posted on that information as soon as I receive it, or any feedback on our self-assessment. But just know it's on our radar. It's something that we're engaging in a regular process and looking at our practices and making sure we're meeting those standards. Over the summer, very point of pride here, having this many students engage in summer programming. You might remember at this time last year, I wasn't feeling so good about my engagement in my summer programming. I only had about 40% engagement for our students who were participating in our extended school year, which are for students who have disabilities who require that extended education over the summer. And so we were really at that point in time really asking ourselves a question about whether or not our model served students and families the way it was designed to. And we were running on a 6-week, 4-day-a-week model at that point in time. And so after collecting some feedback from parents and caregivers, as well as kind of looking at other area models, we made the transition to a 4-week, 5-day-a-week ESY program for our about 350 students this past summer. And we've received very high regards from both staff and from families. And we've seen a really significant increase over this summer in our attendance and engagement rate to 82% from that 40%. And so we were so happy. And while I don't have statistics to share, anecdotally, one of the things that we noticed was that our transportation really shifted. We saw a lot more engagement in our Parks and Recs program, which really supports our students with disabilities. So families were able to engage in camp following their partial day extended school year. And so we have a great program through the town. They do a wonderful job supporting our students. So it provided kind of a comprehensive day where they can access their extended learning through the ESY program and then also access camp, which wasn't necessarily an option when we were running 4 days a week because those Fridays were more challenging for our families in accessing those services. And so in pupil services, we continue to grow. I feel like I also share this with you often. So we currently have about 1,700 students who have IEPs and are eligible under IDEA. 70 brand new move-in students over the course of this summer who are joining us new to West Hartford Public Schools with IEPs this school year. And our prevalence rate is just around 17%, very similar to what we're seeing in the state. And so we're seeing longitudinally that those trends continue to grow, and that's not unique to West Hartford. Something that is unique to West Hartford is we are seeing a need for more specialized programs versus students who are entering into our resource model. So we're seeing students who require a more intensivized level of programming, whether that's in our intensive academic program, students who require AAC, augmentative communication devices, and students who really require a constellation of services. So we're continuing to respond to that, which includes our expansion of our Duffy intensive academic program this school year. We had opened an additional site at our elementary level 2 years ago, and so we're expanding it to be 2 classrooms this school year, and we'll continue to monitor our student to teacher ratio because one of the factors in student success in those programs is the higher density and more specialized staffing for our students. We did welcome 25 new pupil services certified staff members, and I'm happy to share that in our hiring climate and in part to our good friend Julio, we are fully staffed for the certified staffing, which is a huge accomplishment, especially given the shortages that we're facing both with clinical and certified special education teachers. So we are able in West Hartford to really continue to attract a high level of talent, and I'm sure Julia will tell you more about our new candidates, but we're very happy to be able to report that all of our certified staffing positions are full to start the school year, which is a big celebration. So new in terms of mandates and legislation, you might remember that last year I talked to you a little bit about our new platform, which was riddled with some issues. We're kicking off our second year with the platform CT SEDS. It's functioning a little bit better, but we still continue to have some technological difficulties with the platform. The platform houses all of our IEPs, our 504 plans, our private school service plans, and we'll continue to work through any technological issues, and the state's been responsive in trying to resolve those difficulties. And last year, all of our staff were trained. Any new staff members are being trained in the beginning of the year, and we'll continue to have parent information sessions and opportunities for parents to engage in the system, whether, if you're a new family moving to district or if you're a family just starting with an IEP, to make sure parents know how to access the electronic platform, navigate their children's documents, and read and understand them in a real way to participate as a meaningful participant in the PBTs. We continue to have a great partnership with our West Hartford Public Schools SEPTO. We have our first meeting coming up later in September, and we'll put out our schedule of events. This will be our third year of having annual events across the year for all parents and caregivers that are open to any West Hartford resident. You don't have to have a child who has an individualized education plan. That includes items such as adult transition, dealing with sometimes clinical aspects like childhood anxiety and how as parents we might support our youth. So look for those. We try to put them very public facing on our website so that families can access those. Over the summer, we did have a pretty significant legislative change, which had to do with the change in eligibility for our students who have IEPs. So historically, students were eligible until the age of 21. When they were eligible at the age of 21, they were afforded the full year. Later, there was a case that changed that law that expanded to the age of 22. And when we shifted to the age of 22, the law read as such as that when a student turns 22, they exit on that day. So different from 21, where they were afforded the whole full school year and would exit in June. The past couple of years, we've been exiting students across the school year as they aged out at the age of 22. Over the summer, effective July 1, they changed that any students who have a birthday after July 1st of the school year are eligible for the full school year coming up. So that went into effect immediately, which is a little bit different than usually when we see some legislative changes. There's some grace period. So this was effective immediately, which changed things for us a little bit because our post-secondary program starts large and then would dwindle across the year. And so it meant that we were kind of coming back to the table and adding a teacher back into our post-secondary program because our numbers were not going down. We were actually keeping students that actually would have historically aged out even across the summer. So we're happy to have some of our favorite students a little bit longer with us and prepare them for adulthood and those important transition skills. But it definitely a pretty big change in our legislative mandates in terms of age of eligibility. We continue to see the impact on social, emotional, and behavioral health with our youth. We have this past year expanded our contract with the Bridge, and we are continuing to look at our social, emotional supports that we have. We continue to have a number of positions that are funded under ESSER, and so it'll be a conversation for us to continue later in the year because some of those efforts have been very successful in supporting our students. And we've also expanded our mental health offerings to include an off-site clinic through Hartford Healthcare that provides private pay services for students who are having difficulty accessing clinicians after school hours due to the high demand. And so we're hoping to solve an issue that our families are facing when trying to access the mental health care for their students at the high school level. And our priorities this year, as Ann said, are very streamlined. So our department is very much aligned with the district in terms of looking at our top priorities and making sure that our efforts and focuses are all aligned to support our student achievement. And as we heard through Ken Williams's message and our district mission, really every child, every day, and removing those barriers and not moving that standard to a lower standard, but really building those steps so all of our students, including those who have disabilities, are able to access those higher level thinking skills and achieve at their highest ability as well. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about all the information I just shared.
Thank you so much. And Claire, yes. Sorry. Two questions, one at both ends of the special needs population. So at eligibility extending beyond your 22nd birthday, are there plans in place or things where we now will have an exodus of your whole class coming into the system and not having those supports? I mean, one at a time, you can help them more easily. Now you're going to have maybe 30 or 40 young adults all getting out in June, needing to find means. So that's something, just some forethought. You're now going to have a bulk coming out at the same time. And then on the other end, with the kindergarten birthday change, your birth to 3 children that enter the Burr babies, the September, October, November children, they can't start kindergarten. So they now might get a year or 2.5 years of pre-K. So I'm just keeping the bigger picture. There are some, complications coming up. My daughter was held back with a December 29th birthday. She wasn't going to start at 4, but it's hard. Parents often will start your kids with special needs at 4 in kindergarten. So not only do they have the disability, but they're now the youngest. And I'm so happy this age has changed, but it also means we have to educate those kids another year.
So Claire, you brought up such a great point. So I'm actually growing at both ends of the spectrum there. So we're taking students a little bit longer at the younger ages, and my numbers there are actually the highest they've ever been. We're starting this year with 11 classrooms in our early learning center with 135 students, which is our largest population in our early learning center that we've ever housed. And it continues to grow. Something that's a little different than the pre-K programs that are housed in district is that as students age out of burst to 3 services, we are required by law to evaluate and accept them into our program. So we're never full, we're always growing. And similarly on the post-secondary end, we'll be keeping our students a little bit longer. So we are seeing the need on both ends, both with our youngest students and with our oldest students, that there's some growth and reasons for growth on either end. I share your concern about agency support. For those of you who don't know, our students who are exiting after post-secondary public education are often supported by agencies in the community for adult support employment or for adult living. You're right that across a year there's a slower trickle, and we've actually seen difficulty with agencies even being able to support at the time students exit, and we've been running a series every year to keep parents informed, really trying to encourage families, even as young as elementary school, for those families to be in becoming more knowledgeable age. If their child has autism, understanding how to put themselves on or apply for DDS or BRS services so that they're in the queue, so to speak, and how to access those services because they're in such high demand. I do anticipate that there might be some impact for our students and our families, especially in the first inaugural year, where a shift has happened where they're not receiving those services kind of across the year, but all at once at the end of a school year. So we'll do our best to inform families of the ways that they might be able to access those services earlier, or make sure that they're hooked up with the right supports. One of the legislative changes I didn't mention was that the state put forward that we must have transition coordinators. I didn't bother mentioning that because we're very fortunate in West Hartford. We actually have 2. We have one that supports our middle schools and high schools, and also one at our post-secondary level. And those transition coordinators are actually working with students and families from the age of 14 all the way through their potential graduation or exit date to ensure that they have plans, that they're hooked up with the right agency supports and community supports so they're successful in their post-secondary aspirations, whatever those might be. But yes, growing on both ends.
Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. Passing along.
All right, Happy New Year and welcome to our newest members. So I will steal a line from Anne, and it was a very active summer in human resources. So I like to look at this work as really twofolds. The first is really attracting exceptionally skilled educators that really align with our mission. And then there's also the piece of maintaining or retaining our folks that are here, as we certainly know the amount of time and energy that we invest in them and what we want to make sure that we maintain them. So when you look at our numbers for this past year, we had hired 62 contracted teachers and 13 interim staff teachers. We were also able to hire 6 administrators. So it was a very busy summer, as you can see here. I'm also pleased to report that our turnover rate was approximately 5%, which is actually down 1%. So, you hear and read a lot of things within the news that are certainly alarming. I talked to a lot of my HR colleagues, and I can say that for many different reasons, right, that we were able to really have a nice, robust pool of applicants. And so we were actually had over 1,700 applicants this year. And so it was a very competitive pool that all of our candidates went through. I know when Superintendent Vicinus spoke with them, reminding them, right, you're sitting in this room, you're new, you're hired to West Hartford, and you should have pride in that because you were selected from a very competitive pool. And you know, I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of our administrators, and as Paul mentioned as well, all of our staff that gave up a lot of time throughout the summer to come in and to hold rigorous interview and rigorous screening processes, right? And that's one of the things. It would be easy to just, you know, grab the first name that pops in there and make sure we're staffed so that we can check the box. Yep, we're fully staffed, but that's not what we're doing. We're making sure that we're getting great candidates and great teachers and staff in front of our kids because we know they deserve that. I also want to make sure I give a huge shout out to my staff, especially to Emily and Karen, who put together and do a tremendous amount of work. And as you can imagine, when there's an opening, the administrator wants that posted yesterday. And they're calling and it's got to get posted, we've got to get posted, we've got to get posted. And so they are so responsive. So I want to just make sure I give them kudos. And to everyone in my office, Josie does an amazing job with onboarding TAs and paras. And, you know, she's doing, and I listen to her talk on the phone all day long, really just making sure she's recruiting folks, but then also letting them know about what our expectations are, right? We have a little bit of a different level of expectations perhaps than some other districts do. And certainly Linda and Kim do amazing work too. And so I've compiled here in this chart, you can see I've categorized our folks that did leave into 5 categories. And so you can sort of see the breakdown there. Pleased to hires, roughly 79% of them are coming with some significant teaching experience. And so, you know, we've had a lot of conversations with our principals and all of the folks that do hiring to really take a step back and look at the whole team, right? If you have 3 teachers that are on your 3rd grade and you're hiring a new teacher coming in and those other teachers are veteran teachers, you know, it might be a good idea to look at bringing in someone that's new and has some different experiences, or vice versa. If you got a new team and you want to bring someone in that has some experience to help with that. So really just being mindful again of that process. On August 24th, we did our new staff orientation. So again, I'm pleased to report it was a huge success. I'd like to thank Ann and Melissa. We added a additional component this year where folks came back to us also on Friday, and our special ed folks met with Melissa, and our other teachers had an opportunity to meet with Ann, and really to walk them through some of the things we want to really start to focus that conversation on instruction and the things that we're looking for in our classrooms and our expectations, and really also helping to calibrate our folks in special education on what our supports are, what our expectations are there as well. And I know that the feedback was overwhelmingly positive and just feeling welcomed. And, you know, I remember hearing, I had ran into one of the teachers that was an elementary teacher, said, hey, how'd it go? And they were like, you know, I've never talked to a high school person before. And it was really insightful to sort of hear that perspective in their world versus my world. And so, you know, we've looked at that and excited to make sure that we can continue that throughout. But again, on that first day, we did have over 60 members attend. You know, I'd like to thank Sabrina Seton, a 2nd grade teacher at Morrow, who helped me, I guess, MC it, I will call it, and deal with some of the technology pieces. I think Paul got a slight I'll call it a slight chuckle out of, I had a nice technology program set up, ready to go. I had tried it literally the night before. I think it was 7 o'clock. I tried it. Everything was great. Came in the morning, and the company had changed their licensing from free to paid. And so, you know, I wanted to make sure Liz said, nope, we can't get that. So we improvised with that approach. But it was, you know, I think it was actually great. And we really had teachers look at it. Hey, listen, I know you're nervous. I know your administrator is going to come in and do an observation. And, you know, we also recognize that sometimes it may not be perfect as you planned. And so here's a great example I wanted to model for you, that when I'm doing this and all of my bosses are there and they watched me sort of do that piece. But again, it was great. Emily Murray, our Teacher of the Year, came and gave some real inspirational words. And I think I really enjoyed her setting the tone, right, for again, what we're looking for out of a classroom teacher. a lot of the different supports that are offered not only to students but also to our faculty, and that's one of the big selling points, right, and why people want to come here is because of all the supports that our staff are offered. And we talk a lot about when things don't go right, something happens in the classroom and you look to your left and you look to your right and you don't want to be alone. You're a phone call away, you're an administrator happy to come and help out, happy to help support you through those times, because again, we're all there to make sure that we create a safe space and a safe learning environment for all of our students and as well as our staff. And I like to call it, they were sort of inducted into the West Hartford way, as I like to refer to it. And then I certainly want to highlight our Webster Hill Elementary students that gave some words of wisdom that I took some very copious notes to make sure that I can implement those in my walkthroughs. And then again, Lorna for a great welcoming, and our mayor as well at our amazing luncheon. So thank you for that. Certainly one of our goals is always to attract and to help diversify our staff. So, it's one of my true highlights and celebrations of the summer. We recognize the positive impact that a diverse group, a great diverse teaching force has for students. And so, I sit here today and say that 22% of our new hires were, minority candidates. And so I am just thrilled at that. And again, I think that's being purposeful, that's making sure we're being strategic and doing all those pieces. But again, recognizing we have a long way to go, but I do think that's something that is important for us to celebrate, right? That's some really good strides. And one of the last pieces I will share, and I think part of that has to do with our partnership with the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. I know you've heard me sit up here before and celebrate that program. So I'm thrilled to sit here and report that we actually have 2 teachers this year that I'll call it graduated from the program and are in our schools, in our classrooms teaching. So we're really great. I want to publicly thank Teresa too. I know she's already gone and reached out to them and providing the support because we know how tough it is, and we want to make sure again that they feel supported as well through this process. And I'm thrilled to report we have 2 new residents again this year. And so, we had the program actually reached out to us, was so impressed with the support we gave our 2 residents last year, wanted to see if we'd be willing to host again. Absolutely, we're willing to do that. And so I'm excited to sort of watch them grow too as they go through the program, and want to thank our administrators as well for all of the support they do with that program, and really making sure that we're providing support for those folks and helping them feel part of the community as well. They're part of staff meetings, they're part of the professional learning environment and the learning communities, and really making sure they're getting that full experience. So again, I know in human resources, we don't always come with the best news sometimes. So I'm here to do and to share a lot of really, really great hires. And I'm just thrilled to see that. And I've been in the buildings watching them, and it's exciting for me to see them as they go through a process, sit with me. We go through the onboarding and the hiring, and then I get to go out and see them in action and really see them in their classrooms. And it's just fun to see, right? They're so different with me in that one-on-one, and then I go in the classroom, really just see them in action. So just, again, thrilled at our, I'll call them our recruitment class and this year's incoming cohort. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments regarding what we've received? All right, seeing none, passing along.
Good evening. Our final opening of schools report tonight is a snapshot of student enrollment as of the first day of school. As you may recall, the official student enrollment statistics are taken as of October 1st, but the first day data really is a good indicator of our enrollment trends and gives us an indication of how we did in our long-term projections. As you can see in your report, on August 30th, we had 8,870 students in grades K to 12, which was 57 more than we had projected. The variance that we saw was really primarily at the elementary level. We had 50 more students at the elementary level than we had originally anticipated. And in looking at that data, we really saw variances at all grades, at all schools, but most significantly, we saw an increase in our kindergarten class. We're up 14 students from what we had expected, and surprisingly, our 5th grade class, where we're 17 students higher. And so we're attributing that really to move-ins. We really don't see a lot of students typically come back from non-public schools for 5th grade. They tend to do that more when they're transitioning to a different level. But we have, as I said, seen a significant increase in 5th grade, primarily from move-ins. From a school perspective, we saw variances at every elementary school, but Norfeld and Duffy seem to have the largest variances with 17 and 15 respectively. Despite the additional students, we were able to maintain 205 elementary sections as we had budgeted, and we have an average class size of 19.4 students. You may recall that we are still funding some of our elementary classrooms with ESSER funds. So of the 205, 5 of those classrooms are funded with ESSER funds, which expire at the end of this school year. All but one of our sections is within our desired class size guidelines, and we have added an additional instructional teaching assistant to assist with that one grade that is one student over desired guidelines. When we look at our middle and high school, we are very close to our projected enrollment with really some immaterial variances there. And then when we include our pre-kindergarten students, our outplaced students, and our post-secondary students, the district has a total of just over 9,300 students on the first day of school that we expect for the 23-24 school year. Certainly, I will do a more detailed report that goes over our official enrollments, looks at our class sizes, looks at our enrollment in various academic classes at a middle and high school level. Using the October 1st data, we will end up presenting all of that in November. But I'm happy to answer any preliminary questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Gail.
I just was trying to reconcile these two numbers of 9,300 and 8,870. And
yes.
Maybe you said it, but I didn't.
Nope, that's okay. So we typically measure our enrollment just for K-12. So for K-12, it's 8,870. But then when you add in our pre-K students, our post-secondary students, and then our outplaced students, we get to a total of 9,309, I think it is. Of course.
Other questions? Claire?
And this is just about an enrollment repercussion of the kindergarten change. You could see a 15 to 20% reduction in kindergartners next year.
Yes.
And is there going to be some kind of, is there a research team going on, and is there going to be some kind of board report at some point so that we can start looking at what some of these impacts are?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, Claire. We are looking at that. We're already talking preliminary plans just in terms of even who's in our pre-K population, the age of those students, and the impact. But we're also watching closely what the legislation, what the legislature is doing. Is there going to be any change to this based on any issues that might crop up, because this was a fairly substantial change that did not necessarily, and there's excitement in terms of, hey, it puts Connecticut on to the same standard as everyone else across the country, but at the same time, I might expect there's going to be a fair amount of public pushback in terms of that puts parents on the hook for a whole additional year of childcare already when we're hearing about, potentially a lack of resources in those areas. So we are monitoring it closely. We do expect to have future reports that talks about what the progress of this is and what our plans are and what the budgetary implications are as well.
Other questions or comments? All right. Well, my oh my. Collectively, thank you all so very much for your informative information updates. We look forward to the continued journey ahead. Thank you again.
And as they exit, I just want to offer my thanks to this team, the amazing work that they do, the comprehensive nature of this. This is a 6-in-1 report for all of you. So we promise not to have so much in the future, but I can't do it without them. They're an outstanding team.
Certainly so. Thank you, and thank you for your leadership as well. Moving on now to staff reports and board discussions. We've already had that. Yes, we have had that. And so now we will continue to routine matters. Approval of the minutes. Seeking a motion that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of June the 6th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Just one, hold on. Thank you, Ari. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gail. Discussion. Yes, Ethan.
It could be my memory, because it's been a while, but the last page of the minutes didn't make any sense to me. Were there speakers after we were done?
Yes.
Oh, they were? Okay. Then that's fine, just, I blocked it.
That's all right, that's okay. Any other discussion? All right, all of those in favor say aye. Aye. Any oppose? Any abstain?
Abstain.
One abstaining. Thank you. The minutes pass. Moving on to information and reports. Do we have any communication or reports from board members? And I will offer an opportunity to our newest board member if you would like to say greetings or hello, since this is your official day with us here. Do you care to say greetings?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to serving and to just collaborating with all of you. I'm really passionate about students, families, and teachers, so thank you. And yeah, just excited about what we can do together.
Thank you. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. Any reports from other boards or organizations? We've just started off the year, so not quite yet. Other information and discussions? Not quite yet. Moving on to future business, announcement of future meeting dates. We next will come together on Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023, here in room 314 at 7 o'clock for a regular Board of Ed meeting, followed by Tuesday, October the 3rd, 2023, here in room 314 at 7 p.m. And then again on Tuesday, October the 17th, 2023, here in room 314 at 7 p.m. Is there a request for any future agenda items? Seeing none, do we have any visitors here that would like to make a comment? And want to state once again, this being our first meeting of the month, this is when we receive comments on any agenda items. When we come together the next time, comments will be made only on agenda items. Seeing none, we do not have an executive session, therefore seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ari. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Claire. Meeting adjourned at 9:12.